Welcome to Passport to Wealth. I'm your host, Arielle Tucker, certified financial planner and fellow U.S. expat. On this show, we bring together cross-border experts and global Americans to help you make confident decisions about your life, your money, and your next move abroad. Let's get started. Welcome back to Passport to Wealth. I'm Arielle Tucker, and today we're joined by Jordan Tarver, international best-selling author of You Deserve This Shit, creative artist, former lead editor at Forbes, and now a proud American living nomadically throughout Europe. After surviving a near-fatal car accident, Jordan made a life-changing decision to stop living on autopilot and take full ownership of his future. That journey led him to write a best-selling book read by over 50,000 people worldwide, shares stages as a motivational speaker, and inspires a global audience to choose change and create a life they love, wherever they are in the world. In this episode, we dive into Jordan's move abroad, the mindset shifts that made it possible, and how to embrace uncertainty, which can lead to exponential personal and professional growth. If you've ever dreamed of moving overseas, reinventing yourself or your life, or finding purpose after a major change, this conversation is for you. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm wondering if we could start off with you telling our audience where you're currently based and where you're from, and kind of how did you get from point A to point B today?
Yeah, of course. I first want to say thank you so much for the lovely introduction and just having me on. I'm excited to kind of chat about all these things. It's been a very exciting transition in our life with so much new stuff happening, and I haven't had too many conversations yet on podcasts. It's always fun to be able to share more about what's really going on since we decided to move. So we're currently based in Florence, Italy, and we originally moved from the States to Spain, and we really thought we were going to be in Spain as our home base long term. And then once we got over here, we were like, well, we could always find comfort really easily in the States. We could get a place for years on end, and we could stay put and have roots in the ground. And once we kind of thought about that, we realized we wanted this chapter to be more about adventure and more about just gaining more life experience. And so we've been living nomadically. We've lived in 4 different countries in the past 8 or 9 months. And it's been a really fun thing we weren't expecting at all, and something that has just added a new layer to the whole experience. I'm originally from California, grew up in Northern California in Sonoma County in the wine country. And then I lived in Southern California for about 10 years. And then my wife and I had moved to Seattle, Washington in 2020. And we had been in Washington for 4 years and really found just a beautiful flow to life there and really felt at home. But we've always lived with the just connection to our intuition to the point where we know when it's time to go somewhere else. And even though we were in a very great, comfortable life in Seattle, very happy and really enjoying our life there, we just felt this calling to come out to Europe for a short bit of time, because it's been something that we've both talked about kind of throughout our entire 8-9 year relationship, and always really wanted to do it, but it never seemed like the right time. And then we got a nudge to do it in the end of 2024, which kind of started the whole process for us.
And I'm really curious, you're living nomadically in Europe, which sounds like pretty much everyone's dream. Did you need a particular type of visa to be able to have that flexibility? Or how are you actually, or do you have citizenship? I'm just curious, how did that, what is the process to being able to live nomadically in Europe?
Yeah, so for us, I have dual citizenship. So I'm traveling on an Italian passport.
Awesome.
But for other people, yeah, you do need some sort of visa or citizenship, because when you just have the US passport, you can't stay over 90 days within the Schengen. And so anyone's looking to live nomadically, you have to get some sort of visa, whether it's a work visa, a study visa, or citizenship, or there's endless visas depending on what country you go to, but you need some sort of visa that allows you to stay there long term. Or there's really some interesting ways to go about it too. A lot of people will stay 90 days in the Schengen, which is most of the European countries. I think there's about maybe 25 or 27 countries that are in the Schengen. And then you can also leave the Schengen for another 90 days. So a lot of people will go to the UK now because they're not a part of it. And so you can go to the UK for 90 days and you come back to Europe for 90 days and you can kind of live that in and out life. But that definitely adds, a little bit more thought into the travels and the plans and things like that. And it might not be what you're looking for, but that is a way to get around the need for a visa.
I just want to point that out because, as you and I know, living abroad, that, right, as Americans, we don't have just an access to just show up in Europe. without kind of a little bit more thought to it if you want to stay for more than 90 days. So it sounds like you guys have been super thoughtful about it. Yeah, I think there are some good planning opportunities for people who do want to spend more than 90 days, but it is important to consider what the visas, what are the passports that you have, or I'm curious, were you, sorry, I didn't mean to go in this direction, but now I'm just out of curiosity. Did you
No worries.
apply for Italian citizenship? I know Italy there was a huge surge of Italian citizenship through heritage. Were you able to apply for citizenship that way?
Yeah, so we as in me and my immediate family applied for citizenship in 18. So my sister was living in Paris for about 4 or 5 years, and she was kind of running out of her visa options of student visa, work visa, and all that kind of stuff. And she was looking for just a better way to stay longer. And she found out that my great grandfather was born here in Italy. And when he came over through Ellis Island in the 1920s and then started the family on the West Coast, he had my grandfather before he naturalized and gave up his citizenship. So then my grandfather was born with Italian citizenship. And at the time, policies have now changed with Italy currently. You could get citizenship through the bloodline within, I think, 1 or 2 generations. So we had been really lucky and fortunate to be able to go down that route. It was an extremely long process. I booked my appointment for my citizenship in 2016 for a 2018 appointment. So I had to wait 2 years just for the appointment. And then it took about another 1.5 years after the appointment to actually get the physical passport. So it was a very long process. It was probably pretty close to 4 years, if I'm being honest, from setting the appointment to having it in hand. But then, once it was done, it opened up a huge door for us. And it's the reason why we're living abroad right now. And I just every day I'm grateful that we have the privilege to do something like this. And also just grateful for my grateful for my great grandfather giving us this opportunity when he came through Ellis Island and passing along to my grandfather and things like that. That is the path that we took to get the citizenship, but it was definitely a long process.
Yeah, and I tell everyone, policies are closing, and I don't know if you feel the tightening of borders, but since we first moved abroad in 2011 to now, I feel this kind of like tightening of borders in Europe. But I still tell people, if you have family that came over in the last couple of generations, it's still worth to go and check what the country's policies are and start that process. It is a long process. I don't know any country that has like a super fast heritage path to citizenship, but definitely a great opportunity. Okay, now I want to get back to the things that I said we were going to talk about, but thank you for letting me go down that tangent. You talk a lot about, choose change, choose possibilities. You're living this right now, and so many people dream of change, talk about change, but really hesitate to take that leap. So what was your first small step toward building the life that you have right now?
I think it was becoming aware of the life that I wanted. I think a lot of people have this idea that change starts with action, but it really starts with the awareness of what you want to change, or also how I like to look at it is like what's trying to emerge out of you. I think a lot of times in society, change is this thing about like punishment and fixing. It's very like survival based. Like we need to change to fix ourselves or to fix this scenario or fix this relationship. And I really try to reframe it in my life. It's like, well, what's just trying to emerge out of me? What are the things that naturally want to come out? What are my inner callings that I'm receiving from like the universe or God or just messages that I'm getting? And how can I help like facilitate those things that already are presenting themselves so they can come into my life and like manifest into my reality and become what I'm experiencing on a daily basis. And so it really starts with getting aware of what those things are that are trying to come through and setting a vision for yourself around those things, because that's really setting the groundwork and the roadmap for actualizing that change into your life and making it and helping it become your lived experience.
And when you're talking about bringing awareness, how would you tell someone do you tell them to sit down and journal? How would you kind of guide someone into just being more aware of kind of thinking about their ideal life or really kind of aligning who they are with what they were put on this, world to do? How do you take that step?
Yeah, it's a big question. I could write a book on that question alone. But there's a few things that I've done in my life that I feel like have really helped me on that journey of gaining awareness. One thing I will say is like we live in such a noisy world. We have so many distractions. Everyone's busy. I don't care what you do for work or what you do in your life. Maybe you're just a parent. It's like everyone is busy. Everyone is notifications, emails, text messages, phone calls, kids, people they're taking care of. Like life is demanding. And the downside to that is a lot of times we forget to focus on ourselves or create space to ask ourselves those deeper questions or just have the space to even think for a second. And the one thing I would say, like the antidote to that is stillness. It's like, how can you cultivate stillness in your life? Even in like small bits, it doesn't need to be this drastic soul searching journey where you take a sabbatical and you isolate yourself from people for months or weeks on end. But even just in the 5 or 10 minutes throughout your day, can you just have some space of nothingness? It's so easy for us nowadays to pick up a device and distract ourselves in this moments of free time. We get bored in between tasks or things we're doing in work. And so we grab our phone and we do a couple scrolls and now we're into the next task. It's like, well, that could have been a moment for you to take a moment to yourself amongst your busy day and all your responsibilities. And I think if we could just cultivate more of that stillness and space in our life, that awareness will start coming through and also give you time to work on the exercises that could help you as well. So for me, journaling is a big thing. I journal every single day. It has been a non-negotiable part of my life for the last 9 years. And it has allowed me to understand who I am by reflecting on past experiences, understanding how those things affected me, reflecting on the current things that I'm going through and how they're affecting me, making me feel. And then also just kind of dreaming up my life, like asking myself, like, what do I want? How do I want to be remembered? What's the life I want to live? What are the things that I'll maybe regret on my deathbed one day? And that has allowed me to just gain this really deep level of self-awareness that has afforded me, I guess, the knowledge of the things that I need to do or the understanding of how I need to shift in my life to become a certain version of myself. So journaling is huge. Meditation is another amazing way to have that space and stillness and silence. There's free guided meditations everywhere on YouTube. I use them basically every single day. And these are great ways to either do a guided meditation or just meditate to like meditation frequencies. And you can kind of see what visions come through. And then there's other things you can do that maybe feel a little bit more practical in terms of like exercise stuff. So one thing that's a really beneficial exercise is what's called the Wheel of Life. And so if you just Google Wheel of Life, you'll see it all over the Google images. But what it is it's a circle and it has the main domains of life, relationships, career, money, spirituality, joy, those kind of things. And what you do is you, on a scale of 1 to 10, you rate yourself, like how fulfilled do I feel in this area of my life currently today? So you put a marker for that, 1 through 10. And then you ask yourself, how fulfilled do I want to feel in 12 months from now in that area? And what it does is give you a quick snapshot of where you are and where you want to be. And it's a really great way to just gain some quick self-awareness of what's going on currently and maybe the gap in between of where you want to be. And then that can start to inform you on, okay, well, I'm not feeling very fulfilled in this area of my life, but in 12 months, I want to be at an 8. So what can I do differently to feel more fulfilled in that area of my life? What can I do differently to feel more fulfilled in my relationship or more fulfilled in my work? And this is a really great way and exercise that you can do to start to understand the things that you want to change in your life.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing some ideas and some resources. And we'll try to link the Wheel of Life, just so people have like a quick link to what that would actually look like as a resource. I'm curious because one of the things that I notice when I've become an expat is that it brings a lot of stillness into my life. And talking to there's a lot of kind of craziness with an international move, but then all of a sudden, all the noise of like the US media is gone and family pressure is gone and work pressure looks very different. And I'm curious if you found that or you and your partner have found that over the last 8 to 9 months, or if it's just been busy in a different way.
I think life will always be busy, but I think that busyness will shift. And so one thing we've realized is that life will always be life. You're going to have your pros and cons wherever you go. There's not the perfect place to live. there's, I think, the most optimal place or the most aligned place. And since moving, I will agree with you on the media stuff. We're so far away from the headlines and the current events and things like that are happening in the States because we don't get that news out here. And so it can feel like maybe you're a little bit more distant from that just naturally because it's harder to get that stuff and that information. And there are ways to do it, but we aren't people we don't follow the news anyway, and so we're not seeking out that kind of stuff. But there's other things that add busyness, like you're talking about. We live nomadically, and so there's always this thing of like the constant figuring out. We're here for this many months, but we need to think about, okay, where do we want to go next? What place are we going to stay in? And then when we get there, it's then figuring out, okay, what's our routines? What's our lifestyle? Where's our shops? Where's our stores? Where's the pharmacy? And so there's this constant kind of like mental load you have to bear of almost like rebuilding your life or reorganizing your life every, handful of months, depending how long you stay. And yeah, so I would say it doesn't feel less busy, it just feels busy in a different way. Different problems to figure out, different challenges to overcome, and different things to focus on. But I would agree that it's very different than how life felt in the States for sure.
I guess what I'm trying to pinpoint is I feel like I have more time to focus on me and my goals and where my focus is. So for example, for me, I'm very I always knew I would live in Europe from like a very young age. I just felt very aligned with I was going to build my life in Europe. And I have spent my whole life right now building my life in a world in Europe. And I just feel like being here has allowed me to just kind of align all of my values. Like if we were talking about, journaling and writing down, like what is the most important things? Like my family is super important to me. So I have more time to be with my family. We have more time off. We have less work pressure. That's kind of that was like the angle that I was going at. And so I guess it would be very different if you were living nomadically, constantly having to like pick up and move. At some point, I've been able to just settle a little bit, and that's been nice for us.
Yeah, we definitely at times missed the stability of having one place. But I will say, like, the culture is so different throughout all of Europe compared to the States, where we do feel like we have more time for those sorts of things. And I think it's just because in the States, it's very like championed to like hustle and to grind and to like push yourself to them. Like burnout is a badge people wear, which I think is odd. But I guess it took me leaving to realize that was a weird, maybe misaligned approach to life. But you come here and it's not the same. And even though we're running online businesses that exist in the States and quote unquote American businesses, we've really embraced the rhythm of work and how people exist with work and their relationship with work. And I feel like it's really improved our time allocation to those things so that we do have more time for going out in the city and being in the culture and enjoying and things like that and not overworking ourselves. When I was in the States, I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, go to the gym and be working on something, by 8. Now I wake up at 6 here, which is not that drastically different than before, but I have a slower morning. I wake up, I do my journaling, I do my meditation, I do some just light movement. And I will work out around 7:30, and I don't start work until 10:30 at the earliest is my current schedule. Which if I did that in the States, I would be stressed out because it's like I'm so far behind. But for some reason, there's just a different frequency here and different rhythm. But it feels good.
I'm curious because you guys are moving around every couple of months. How are you building community? How are you staying connected with people? Are you connecting with other people who are traveling like you? Are you connecting with locals? What does your sense of community look like right now?
That's a great question. I would say that's been the more challenging part of this lifestyle. I think it takes time to really build community and being in and out of places. Sometimes you don't have enough time to really connect and build deep relationships. And I think the place in life that we're at, we're in our early 30s. We've been together for 9 years. We're thinking about the family chapter, and I'm not looking to have 100 friends anymore. It was fun. It was fun to have a lot of friends in college and when I was younger, but I don't need that. That's not something I don't value the number of friends. I value the depth of the relationship. And so I didn't come out here to like meet a bunch of people. That wasn't my intention. That wasn't our like goal, was like to build this like massive community. But at times, like it does feel like we do lack community. And so it depends where we are. Most of our community, I would say, is in Mallorca, Spain, because that's where we have been the longest. And we have a group of friends there. As we've been traveling through these different areas, we haven't made tons of community, but it hasn't been really our intention when we've been places for a short period of time. So it kind of depends where we are. But I will say that is the one like domain of life that we would say like feels most like quote unquote lacking, even though it's not a place that we feel like it's having a negative impact on us. And that is made easier because we have each other. You know, the fact that we're in this relationship together, we're exploring this dream together and like on this adventure. We just like, to be honest, like I could just have her for the rest of my life. And like I'd be perfect. And
that's amazing. That's so good. That's so great to hear. That knows when you're perfectly matched. And I think like, I always think about that. I think that's even more important when you are an expat to find your person, because I think I asked that question because I think it's important to highlight sometimes you are going to lack community, or you are just going to be in transition, and we're just going to acknowledge we're in transition, and this looks a little bit different for us as a couple or as an individual. Yeah. And I just think, there's something about just moving abroad together. It's like a make or break. It will deepen that relationship, or the cracks will show and things will fall apart. And so it sounds like you guys have found your person. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Okay, I want to ask a final question for someone who's feeling stuck, or they want to move abroad, even just change careers, or they just want to break out of their routine. What is something that they could do today to start choosing change?
It's the one thing I recommend to any person who ever comes to me, if they're either just starting their journey of focusing and choosing themselves, or maybe they're a little bit deeper into it, but they've never done it before. But journaling, my one thing that I know works. And I think a lot of people will be like, well, like I'm not a good writer, or I don't have time. And valid, like those are valid concerns or reasons to not want to do it. But I would say you don't have to be a good writer. In fact, I think the best type of journaling is messy. Place for you to just pour your thoughts without worrying about how it looks, sounds, feels, or grammar. And then in terms of time, I understand people are busy, caretakers, parents, people work in jobs that hold a lot of responsibility. And what I say to them always is just write one sentence every single day. That's all. Write a sentence about how you feel. And that sentence alone will start to become a mirror of your life, because it will just reflect back to you like what's going on currently today. How do I feel today? I feel enthusiastic about what I'm about to do, or I'm really frustrated with what's going on at work, or I feel really like loved by my partner. And as we start to write these things every day, you start to get in the rhythm of it, and it kind of starts to have this little like pulse to it. And you're like, okay, I can write 2 sentences, I can write 3 sentences, and soon enough, it just becomes this habit of yours. And so journaling is always a recommendation I make, and the best part about it is it's free. The only cost is your time. I think it's a great investment.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that tip. We will be sure to link all of your socials and ways for people to connect with you and your website. Is there any upcoming projects or events or new writings that you want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, so I am currently working on my 4th book, which is a super exciting part of my journey. It's the book that I feel like I've always wanted to write, but I haven't yet got a chance to write it yet. And it will probably most likely be out somewhere around 2026, 2027, like end of 2026, start of 2027. So we got some time until that. But if you are interested in checking out my other writing, I write on Substack. You can just search my name, Jordan Tarver, and I'm publishing work there every week.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jordan. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The content shared in this podcast is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial, tax, or legal advice. We encourage you to consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, or other licensed expert before making any decisions based on the topics discussed. Everyone's financial situation is unique, and personalized guidance from a trusted professional is the best way to ensure your choices align with your individual goals and circumstances.